Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Shiva. So, hello everyone. So, I am Jitain and I have around 4.5 years of experience. From past 2.5 years, I have been working in MuleSoft and also some other things. So I have a very keen interest in DevOps and cloud computing. And so I used to do a little bit of automations also. So, just since it's a very interesting stuff. So, regarding today's topic, so we'll be learning about Slack integration with the runtime manager, not just runtime manager, but any platform as a whole. This will be like we will be using Slack commands to perform certain actions, which are probably useful for us. If you want to just get you usually come across the capabilities of any one platform, and we'll integrate with Slack. So we see like we have to log in every time. So this sort of this automation will come in handy when you're just working on your chatbot and just you're using Slack, and just if you want to get anything, you can just get that with a single command, and you can get all the information at a single place. You don't have to just move to different places, log in inside it. So those sort of things. So uh, I think I'll share my screen and we can start. So today's agenda we'll be learning about Slack events, from which we will be using to integrate with our runtime manager. Along with it, we'll be integrating with Anypoint platform using platform APIs, and we'll see like the whole framework, how it is built, how it is working, and also like we'll go into very detail of how the Slack event actually works. So this will be sort of an event driven sort of integration, and we'll see like how we could uh, you know do this thing, automate this thing, and also like maybe enhance it as per our own needs and functionalities. Yeah. So I think, and thank you, Shia, for the introduction. And now we can start about the Slack events. So since it's an events API, so it's a very streamlined way to build apps and boards. So as everyone who has used Slack, so there is a concept. So we create Slack apps and Slack boards. So suppose you're using Slack and you want to integrate it with Zoom. So for example, you want a Zoom app as a part of it. So you can just install Zoom app, and then you can just with a single command you can just start a Zoom meeting with just a single command only. So that's the functionality. That's how the usually board works. And also like if you're in a Slack channel and you want a bot to perform certain actions. So let's suppose if someone has posted a message, no one has replied in maybe 5-10 minutes. So a bot actually thinks like we'll get that to in 5-10 minutes. And these are some of the basic functionalities of bot. And Slack bot can also be used if you want to use Slack as a part of a sort of approval mechanism, or you want to check some errors, or there are some notifications coming to your Slack channel. So that's a pretty good way to understand things. So how this thing works, I'll explain you. So the core behind everything that happens with the integration of Slack is Slack Events API. So for everything we do on Slack, like if we post a message, we add a reaction, or we upload a file, or we do any different thing, there is always an event generated there is always an event generated, and this that event actually gives us the details what has actually happened. Now suppose if I posted a message on a Slack, so that posting of a message of a Slack will post an event which is a post message, which is that someone has posted a message on that particular event. And from that information we'll get to know, okay, this thing happened, and then we can perform certain actions pertaining to those things. So we basically subscribe to the events as we usually do in any event-driven mechanism. We subscribe to a particular site, like we used to do, subscribe to a particular channel or a particular topic, and we receive all the notification. As similar with YouTube, you subscribe to a particular channel, and then you receive the notification when that particular channel posts a new video. So it's pretty much similar to it. We'll be subscribing to a particular Slack event, and we'll be reading those Slack events and perform certain actions that we want to do. So these events that we have, so they are tied to some permissions that are limited to it. So there are many permissions that are being assigned, but usually we assign some permissions, only the permissions which we are allowed to, or which we want to perform certain actions only. Like there are some permissions which is related to file read, like that Slack even a particular event will only be able to read a file only. You can't do anything else, and it will be triggered only when a file is already posted. It won't do anything else. We use Slack boards. We basically first create a Slack app, and then we create a board as a part of that Slack app, which works on behalf of that application, Slack application. And that board is actually the one that is responsible for interacting with the event and the server which will be listening to those events. So the base that board actually provides you that integration between them. So using Slack events, we can usually use them in two ways. One is probably the easiest way, which is using a host like a HTTP request, HTTP call. So whenever some event is triggered, it will be actually by posting a message to our endpoint. We can expose our endpoint, and then on the basis of that endpoint, like what are the details that we get, we choose to do what we want. Now there will be times when you want to, on certain events you want to perform certain actions, but on certain events you don't want to do anything, you just want to ignore them. So you can do anything as per your need. You can choose to ignore any event, or you can choose to do anything related to that particular event. So the first is using HTTP. The second is the socket mode, which is the WebSocket way. So I think most of you, my people, might be familiar with the WebSocket way. I think so. In order to use Slack events, we need, as I've already mentioned, so appropriate permissions needs to be given to that Slack app or the Slack bot, which will be performing certain tasks on behalf of us. And if that particular bot or app doesn't have the appropriate permissions, we won't be able to do those tasks. So we have to always provide certain permissions to that particular app that we create. That will be talking on our behalf. Any questions until now? You can post on the chat if you have any questions. I'll proceed further. Yes. So let's now go deep dive into how it actually works. What is the whole scenario behind it? So whenever we do something on the, so basically what we do is first we create a Slack app. I'll show you in the demo how do we create it. So the very first basic step is we create a Slack application as a part of workspace, which we are part of. So as a part of the workspace, we create an app in that workspace. And once we create an app in that workspace, we create a bot which will be talking to us on behalf of that Slack app. And once you talk to that bot, so the bot will ask our bot to perform certain functions, will perform certain events. And once that event is triggered, so that event is triggered, basically it's a JSON message, and with the JSON message actually contains all the information that are needed, which tells us what actually happened in the Slack channel, like which is the user that actually triggered it, what is the channel in which it was triggered, what is the token behind it, and what was the actual message which was sent as a part of that Slack bot. So everything, anything that is so we JSON event is triggered, and we receive that event. Like the event listener actually receives that event, and it performs a certain actions that are. I think it's a pretty straightforward stuff. Once you receive that event, the first step is you first acknowledge it. So there are two ways. Either you can first perform the action, then acknowledge it. But in that case, the problem is Slack has a limit where you have to provide the response within 3 seconds. So if you have triggered some event and we have to perform a certain action after that event, we have to provide the response within 3 seconds. If the 3 second time limit exceeds, it will fail, so it won't allow. So either ways, you can keep it asynchronous. You can set a like a acknowledge event immediately you receive the message, and then you can perform certain actions, then you can just post the channel. That's how usually the best practices. But if you feel like it can be done in 3 seconds before, and yeah, you can just directly do it. But usually the best way is like once you receive the event, immediately send an acknowledgement, and then you can perform the certain actions that you want, because at times it could be like it could take more than 3 seconds. Or suppose if there is a huge file you want to upload as a part of that Slack event that you have to in response to, that might take more than 3 seconds. So the best way is you provide an acknowledgement, and then you continue to perform the certain functions like we do in async processing. Um, our business logic actually decides what to do about the event. So if I say hello, so on the basis of hello, it will do certain function. If I say hi, it will perform certain functions. And we'll talk about Slack commands also, which are also part of Slack app only. And on certain commands, it actually performs a certain function. So we'll be using Slack commands in our demo. And on Slack, particular running of a command, it will do certain job tasks. Yes, and members send the message the boat belongs to. So it's not like if a channel is A and I'm posting from channel A, it won't post to channel B. So it will only post to the channels if I think everyone would be familiar with Slack. So Slack channel is kind of a group only, and wherever you post it, you will get that information. Yes. Slack authentication authorization. It's very like a very interesting one also. So whenever we create a Slack app, you basically get a client ID and a client secret, as with the OAuth, any every OAuth application. And in turn with it, you also get a Slack token, which is a unique token that is pertaining to that particular app. And for every app, you basically create a bot which will be talking on behalf. So that bot token is also separate. So basically, you use two parameters, which is Slack token, I would say Slack app token and a Slack bot token. These two are needed for authorization, especially when you are trying to interact via event-driven system. So we will be using these two ways. I'll show you how it is done, and then you will get a two tokens like they are a huge string, and we will be using those tokens to authenticate via our the Slack and our the server that we will be using, the service that we'll be using. And yeah, permissions, as I said, like if I think everyone might be familiar with OAuth too, so we provide certain scopes to that particular application, whatever operations it is allowed to perform, or whatever scopes that it is allowed to do. So those things are. So the app token and board token will be configured on the server side to authenticate. So as I said, these two tokens will be there on the server side so that the message that we'll be listening to, it's authenticated. So first the message actually it sends a ping message to see if it is from the trusted source, and then it authenticates on the basis of the Slack token. Once it is authenticated, it continues to send a ping message just to make sure like the server or the connection is fully established. So like I think we have checked in news out also, like we used to do in VPN, especially in VPN connectivity, we used to create an API which would just continuously ping just to make sure that the connection is working fine. And if that ping fails, we used to raise a notification. So similar to it, like it automatically always sends like a ping message just to make sure connectivity is working fine. So this is just a one type of a message that is generated. So whenever we say like whenever we message type a simple hello world or something, we receive this event, this sort of event. So we have a type which is hello, num connection, number of connections established which is equal to one. Dig up in the I think these are those connection parameters, and the connection info also app ID, which is the app ID, basically the app that you have created, which is talking on behalf of you. So the unique ID of that app is generated. Then we have the Slack command event, which is probably the most interesting part. We will be using this command event. So Slack commands are basically just simple slash commands, Slack commands or slash commands you can say. So they are written like as slash, similar this way, command get status, and we perform certain actions on the basis of the command. So if certain command say get status, we'll do some different function. If a certain command says get data, we'll perform certain function. So these commands are actually part of the Slack app only. So Slack app that we create, you can do different things inside it. So you can set permissions, you can add Slack commands as a part of that app. So you can perform certain functions. It can be done different ways. You could use a real interactive chatbot also. You could use Slack commands also to how to integrate with the target system that you are planning to. But that's just a personal choice. So I'll take one example. There is I think anyone can try, like there is a AWS chatbot also as a part of Slack application. Now that doesn't work via Slack commands, that actually works via like real time chatbot only. It's probably similar to AWS CLI. So you first send an app the message, and it will perform certain functions for you. For example, I want to get the queue status, or I want to see check the EC2 status. You can work via that app actually. But here we'll be using slash command. Slash command, I'll show you like other examples also where other apps, like for example, Zoom uses slash commands, Salesforce uses slash commands in in Slack. So it's a pretty good, I mean, I would say a pretty interesting way to. So these are actually some of the parameters that are part of it. We have the token, which is a unique token ID, team domain, which is actually your workspace name or something, workspace ID, channel ID, which is the channel that you are part of, the Slack group you are part of, channel name also, what is the actual channel name, user ID, which is the actual user that is sending the message, username, command, text. This text is actually part of Slack command only. Now you want to add some certain parameters also as a part of your Slack command. For example, if I say get status, I want to add one or two parameters as a part of it. So you can just to add just to get more information out of it. So we use Slack command for that. So we have the response URL trigger ID type and accepts response payload equal to true. So we get a response payload, like a acknowledgement you can say, or yeah, like proper acknowledgement, like I have received this message. Then you can perform certain functions. So now comes actual work where we will be integrating slash commands with Slack commands with Anypoint platform. So as I said, we will be using slash commands. I'll show you in the demo how we actually use it. And they serve as a shortcut, like you don't want to specify the whole statement. Now I'll take an example. If I want to get the status of all the MuleSoft applications deployed in a particular environment, I don't want it writing like a whole thing, like it would be like a huge line to write, and it could be different for every person would write in a different way. So the best way to generalize it, just use a slash command, which will do the purpose for you. On the server side, like we'll be using a Golang service. So I have built a small Golang service which will be listening to those events, and once that events are listened, it actually sends immediate acknowledgement, and then it will be performing certain functions that we want to perform. So we'll be using a Slack library from Golang, which will do the whole job for you. So the integration that we have built is use WebSocket mode. It is not using HTTP requester, since there are some limitations with using the HTTP mode. So the socket mode is a pretty, I would say, quite useful, and also like more flexible with how we want to do things. That's why I thought of using that way, and it will be like you'll see like how easier it makes things compared to the post method or the HTTP method does. So usually slash commands are divided into three types. We have the built-in slash commands that are usually as a part of Slack only. So for example, if you want to perform some certain operations on Slack only, like I want to archive a message, I want to save a message, I want to even make a start a message, delete a message, that can be done via Slack commands only. So they are like by default commands that Slack itself provides. App slash commands. So any application you install as a part of your Slack. So for example, it could be a Zoom app, it could be a AWS chatbot app, it could be any app that you want to get. Maybe a Lucid chart app. And those Lucid chart apps comes with their own set of commands slash commands, and they perform their certain actions on the basis of those pertaining to those app only. And we do certain job for them. Then we have this customized slash commands, which we'll be building now. Like we'll be using commands that are ours. We'll create an app, we'll add some slash commands which are as per our need, and then we'll be performing certain function on the basis of that. Any questions until now? Any questions? I will take it as a no. So, yeah, first I'll explain how this whole thing will be working. Uh, User, it could be any user who is part of that Slack channel, will be posting a message to that particular Slack channel. Once we receive that message, we'll be performing a certain function on that particular message. And since every event will be triggered once you send that message, and those events will be listened by a Golang server, Golang event listener that we built. And depending on the type of message or the operation the message is performing, we'll do certain things on the basis of it. And how it will do it, now we'll be calling any platform API to do certain jobs for us. Now I'll tell you what are the steps we'll be performing, different steps that we'll be performing using any platform API. And the best part is we could enhance it any way we want. Like if you want to maybe interact with neural, interact with I would say RTF, or if you want to actually get the monitoring statistics, or if you want to get how many EPAs that are currently running, or even like if is there any alert that I got, it could be built to any extent. Like you could build to any way. I built only basic functionality and some one or two good functionality also, but you can extend it to any way you want. So these are some of the commands that we'll be using. So we will be posting messages. So since it will be part of Slack app, so it will be a callback event, which is we expect some response from it. So we'll be using that is called a callback event. I'll show you the structure how the callback events look like, and on the basis of it, the Golang event listener will receive the message. It will trigger certain. It will send an acknowledgement, and then it will call the appropriate platform API to retrieve you the information that you want. So following up some of the operations that we'll be performing, so which is get status, it will give you the status of every API that is deployed to a runtime manager, whether it is in your dev environment or QA or prod, anywhere you want to get the actual status of it. Change status where you could actually start, stop, or restart your application. So suppose there is an API running and you want to actually start application or stop application or something comes, you can do that. Get assets. So every asset that is part of your platform, you can get the asset information, like how many assets are there, how many remnants are currently deployed, and also download assets. So if you want to suppose download a raml, and just you just run a Slack command, it will actually download you the raml in the Slack only, not just raml but a jar file also, anything that you want. So can I start the demo? Before I start the demo, please feel free to ask any questions if you have, if you thought maybe I missed something, or if you have want some clarification on anything, please feel free to chat or anything.
Hey Jitin, can I ask one question?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Jitin, what is that Golang service you mentioned? Is it some third-party service, or what exactly use of that we are going to like? What we are going to achieve with that?
Yeah, so Golang is like a similar programming language only, like Java or JavaScript. The thing is, we have built this whole backend, you can say, or the listener which will be listening to the Slack events in Golang. So it's now Golang actually has a very brilliant support for concurrency, and since we wanted to use WebSocket mode, so I think that was, I thought, the best way to do it. We could use MuleSoft also, like we could build this application MuleSoft, but then you have to post an HTTP endpoint, and there are some certain limitations that come with it. So I thought of using Golang for two things mainly. One is its brilliant support for concurrency, since it's, you don't want your server to stop every time a command is run. It should keep running, and the event should continue to listen. And the other is like the Slack library that it provides. Like there is a very good inbuilt support for that, and that is the reason why I choose for Golang also. It could be built in anything, like you could build in Java or
Okay,
even
but
WhatsApp.
this is a third party, but like you meant.
Yeah, you can say third party. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, you
okay,
can.
sure, thanks.
So I think Sagnik is asking where this the Golang service. So currently it's running in local, but yes, you can run it on a container you can run it on a container on AWS as a part of your EKS cluster, or you can deploy it to EC2 also. It can run anywhere. Currently, I'm deploying it in local. We can do anywhere you want. The other question was, other than inbuilt slash command, how can we create ours? We can. I'll show you how we create the customized slash commands. How we can create it. So actually earlier I thought of maybe creating a container, but I thought like maybe we'll keep it simple. But we can create a Golang container also, like using Docker. We can create an image of it. I'll show you little steps if you want. Maybe at the end of the session I can show you how we can build that, and you can deploy it to some cloud platform also, whether it's something. Maybe you can wait for a minute for any questions if you have, or else we can start the demo. Okay, so I'll start the demo probably. Yes. So let me get this one. Yes. So if you want to go, so you can go to this link, which is api.slack.com. I can probably share in the group. Harish has a question. Harish, you can maybe add in the chat. Harish, are you there? The things we were able to add, we'll be able to do add the board if it about to be done in Slack. Yes. So for anything that needs to be done in Slack, we have to create a board, and that board is actually part of a Slack app only. So in order for a Slack app to run, that board will have to be installed. So it usually comes as a part of your Slack app that you create. I'll show you actually how it works, and then that board will actually be performing the certain operations on your behalf. So on behalf of the user, it will send the event, and that's all. No, it doesn't require a client ID, client secret. As I told you, it requires two things. One is the app token, and the other is a boot token. Two things, and those two will help to establish the connectivity between your event listener and your Slack. We get a client ID, client secret. That can be done in other ways also, but in our case, we'll be using a boot token. So yes, I can start. So you can go to this Slack app. So if everyone has a Slack workspace, you can go to this link slack.ak.slack.com, which will go to your basically your workspace. And let's create our apps now. So let me just go here. I've already created an app, but I'll show you how to create an app also. So I have created three apps, which is this one, Mule Status app, Online app, new app. So we'll be using the Mule Status app for this one. Now, these are the certain functionalities that are part of that application. Now, once you create that app, you'll get all this information automatically. You don't have to do anything. You'll get this information automatically. But the thing is, how we'll make sure our Slack app actually talks to the listener. So we'll do some small things that I'll show you how to do that. So the very first step is we basically go to auth and permissions. Now, if you see this auth token, we always get this token. Like once you create a Slack app, we'll get this token. This is a boot token. Boot is actually a bot that is on the application behalf that will be talking to the user and will be performing certain actions to you. So this is OAuth token for your workspace. This is a unique token which will be used for our authentication and also the authorization. So uh, these are some of the scopes that we have to add. Now these scopes are certain permissions that allow a user or that allow that bot or the app to perform certain functions. Now in some cases you won't have allow permission to file read, so that Slack event listener won't be able to read the file or it won't be able to perform the certain function that you want to do. So always have to make sure that you have to provide these boot these facilities. So since we'll be using boot only, the Slack bot will be communicating that. Okay, but workspace that will be your work or org level workspace. For example, in my case it was like the one I work for. But you could create your own Slack workspace and then you can use that workspace. That actually you can get on the Slack app only. That will be your own personal workspace. You can create a personal or you can create a user organization one. Yes, yeah, I'll show you that from the scratch also. Give me, I'll just explain this and I'll create a Slack app for you from the very start. This was to the message I was replying to. So these are some of the permissions that we give. App mention read, channel history, channel join, channel read. If you want to join a channel, chat write, chat customize commands most important one. Files write, incoming webhook. So incoming webhook is like it allows you to post a message to a particular channel. It actually opens up a new URL for you. You can call that URL. It will allow you to post it. So I'll take one small use case. I think everyone in my, I think some of you might, I think everyone might have heard about that SNS, Amazon Simple Notification Service. So you could open a Slack webhook and just post that message, post that URL in the SNS. So any notification can also be sent directly to Slack. So you don't have to do a certain different configuration. You'll get an incoming webhook URL and just call it. It will post that message to a particular channel that you want. Yeah. So if you go to this slack.com, now here you can create a new app. There is an option to create a new app. So I'll show you. App manifest is like some certain permissions that are actually part of it. It's still in like a testing phase, so it's not that much. Like maybe in some time it will be like a little bit better. But for, the best ways you create from a very scratch, like the app from very scratch. Let's take an example. It would be, let's say, new. Now I won't actually, I can't disclose the workspace name, but yeah, you can choose any workspace that you are part of. Sorry for that. Yes, yeah, it's there. So this is your app is created now. Now see, if you see these different functionalities it supports incoming webhooks, it supports slash commands, boards, permissions, event subscriptions, and interactive components. Now the things that we'll be using boards, we'll be using event subscriptions, we'll be using permissions, and we'll be slash commands. So all those four things will be used. Okay, let's go to board first. So the first step is, since we have to interact via board, so we'll add some scopes to it. So let's add some board tokens. So for example, it could be app mentioned read. Okay, it could be, let's just say chat write, and let's just say chat read. Right, okay, should be fine. So I'll do this only. So once this is done, like once you add the scope, you have to install this to a workspace. Basic workspace is where once you create an app, you have to install it on the workspace so it is visible to your Slack application. So I have to do, but that will, I can show you that. But let's try once. So that way it will allow you to add it into a group. Now I can't show that, but yeah, you can do wherever you want to. So there is like I've already attached a link which could do this. You can actually follow that, and it's a very simple process. It's not a very difficult one. Now let's go to the app. So, this is the one new status app. Okay. So app creation is pretty simple. You can just go here. You go to anywhere, create new app. I'm posting a link if you want that. This is the link that I have shared you, which is used for creating a new app if you want. Okay. Yes. Now so that part first done. So we have added scope. You can install. So we have to install this to workspace. That is the very first step that you have to do. So for every new scope you add, every time you add a new scope, you have to always install it to workspace so that the new changes can be there. Okay. So if you have add a complete new scope, you always have to add. Ansel, I'll actually show you the all the scopes but these are the for now. I have added these scopes. 1 second. I think these are the ones. So if you want to get the scopes, you can go to auth and permissions. Now here you can add all the scopes that you want. Currently, for this is a completely new app from very scratch, so I'll just tell you the basic stuff. But there are many scopes as a part of it. Like that depends on if everyone has used Slack, so they'll be pretty familiar with that. There are many scopes that you can add. Once you add any scope that you add, any scope, no new scope that you add, you have to always install it to Workspace, which is the part of the org that is basically. So you have to always install it there. Now let's go to event subscriptions that we'll be actually be using. So currently it is off, but we have to make it on. and you can use the request URL, but we'll be using a different format, which will be using the Slack events. So we'll show you that. So subscribe to, so you can subscribe to anyway. You can subscribe to bot events, or you can subscribe to events on behalf of the user. So we'll be using subscribe to bot events. So we can add a bot user event there, and all the things that are permissions that are part of it. I'll show you in a separate app where actually I've already configured this, but I'm just explaining you the very basic stuff like how it does. And you can add the basically bot event that bot will be allowed you to perform. Let's go to slash commands now. Now here we'll be creating new commands. How we'll create? Let's see. Let's go to here. Let's add a command which is get environment. So request URL, you can configure the request URL, or as I telling you the post method. If you don't want to use a request URL, you have to do some certain way, different way. I'll show you. Okay, 1 second. Yes, we have to install socket modes. I forgot. Sorry for that. So as I told you, there were two ways. One is the socket mode, and the other one was a request mode. So if you see allow your app to connect via socket mode, you disable it and revert to using any request URL. So either you use a post URL or you use socket mode. We'll be using in our case, we'll be using a socket mode. So if you click on this, we have to generate a scope. So this will be like a new app token. That's as I told you, there were two tokens that we need, which is the one is the app token, the other one is the boat token. Boat token we've already created. Now we'll create an app token. Let's just say this is your app status token, which is the app token. So you can just copy it and just use it. Now this is established. Now if you see, these are some of the features that actually come as a part of socket mode, which is the slash commands that we'll be using, event subscription that we'll be using, interactivity shortcut, we won't be using this, but you have to enable it always. Whenever you create a Slack or whenever you enable socket mode, you have to create it. Now these steps are, they might be a little, seem a little, you wouldn't say overwhelming, but I have already shared the documentation of certain steps that are part of it in the PPT, so you can follow them, and it's pretty easy. Like it's not a very difficult. Like it's very easy. Yes, so let's just enable it if you want. I can enable that. Yes. Now, if you see earlier, you were getting a request URL path. Now you are not getting it since we have enabled socket mode. So in socket mode, you don't need a request URL. So it will be like event-driven WebSocket. So let's just say any command. You can say get info and usage, and you can actually add some certain. For example, I want environment also, like where environment you want, and also the description, like what will actually performing, like get the status. Now this is your customer. So that the question someone was asking this question: how can we create customized slash commands? This is the way to create a customized slash commands. Now if you see, this is happening inside your app only, like the new app that you have created. So that's how we are performing that. Any questions until now? We can generate so any predefined command actually is we have to check like any pickup if it isn't I actually haven't tried like if it is interfering with any pre-existing command. I have actually haven't tried. I'm not sure about it. I can maybe take a look, but I guess it won't allow you to create a command which is already taken by Slack itself. So you have to create your own Slack command. Does that answer the question? So, yeah. Any questions? I can after this I'll show you the app that I have configured. Any questions until now? Please feel free if you are having any queries or something. So let's proceed further. Let's go to the app that I have created. Okay. I think I've already shown you from where we generate the board token. If you go to OAuth and permissions, see, once you install it to Workspace, it will configure the board token for you. If you see, this is board token. The app token is created for if you want to use socket mode. That's where you want to use that. These are some of the permissions that I have used, which is I have mentioned read, channel history. Since I'll be needing those permissions to perform certain actions that I'll be doing, file write, incoming webhook. Incoming webhook actually was not necessary, but I just did it. User read, users write, files write, commands, chat write, channel read, channel join. Some basic stuff that you want. And these are the slash commands that I'll be using, which is get status. It will get the status of all the mules deployed. Change status, start, stop, or restart the application. Get asset info, all the assets, like list all the assets. List environments, how many environments are there, and also their environment ID also. Like if you want the environment ID, need an environment ID, you need that. Download asset, if you want to download a particular RAM or jar file, anything, you can just do it from Slack only. We still I'm still in process of adding like adding functionality login also. Like currently we'll be like using the username password that I already have, but maybe we can I'll enhance it if I need to like put it public. I can enhance it that it could use any username password. So you can log in via Slack command only, and you can just pass a username and password, and there you can just log in inside your Anypoint platform. So those things are still in process. Like we can proceed, like we can enhance it further, but this is just like a very basic stuff that I built. And this is the socket mode since it's already enabled. So yes, these are some of the since event subscriptions I'll be using subscribing to the events. It's enabled. Slash commands are also enabled. Interactivity is also enabled. Before I proceed with the demo and actual demo, please feel free to ask any questions regarding platform API or how Slack is configured or how authentication is happening. Just feel free to ask me before I jump to the actual demo. Okay, so I can proceed with the demo then. Cool. Let's start with the demo. So, for simple purpose, I have Anypoint credentials. I have already have as a part of my that backend that I have the event listen that I built. And let me show you something first. So yes, if you see, this is Mule status app. This is the name of the app that I have. And if you see the icon, now let me go to my Slack and just show you here. Do you see this application? Now, whenever you reinstall it to your workspace, this is how it will look like. Like that particular app that you've built, the Slack app will be part of your channel or any the Slack workspace you're part of. Now, since it's a channel, I am kept it as a part of channel. Now, there are only single member in the channel, which is I am. And then we have the integration with the Mule status app, which is the status app that I built. Now, this status app will also be acting as a boot. Like the boot will be interacting with the things that we want. So yeah, shall we start? Now let me first start my run my Go application. So yeah, if you want, I can just show you a little bit of the Go application that you have. So we are listening to different events. So before that, I think the most important part was showing you how the events will come. We have that. I hope my screen is visible like this. Okay, so this is Slack WebSocket message, the very basic message that you have received, like hello or something. So this is the sort of message that you get. Now the callback event. Callback event where you explicitly mention some user. Now in Slack, you could actually tag the person. So for example, if I'm messaging to Shiva, so I like hi at the rate, like I'll use at the rate, and then the particular user will pop up. And similar to LinkedIn and Facebook, like you tag how you tag. So that is a callback event. Like you actually are calling that. So this is how a callback event will look like. So you will get envelope, payload. Payload will get all the information. Team ID, API app ID, client ID. Then you have the text, the user. So it's a app mention. App mention is where you are actually mentioning or tagging the name of the application. I'll show you how it is done. Like no, you can usually do like in Teams also we do like we tag actual person you want to tag. So that is actually a user mention event. So so here we are getting a text that is hello, and we will be doing so. We receive this event of certain this type. So we have everything: enterprise ID, team ID, user ID. Which is is the message sent from a bot or is the message sent from an app? Every information will be part of it. So these are some certain metadata that we are actually where we get a part of it. Okay. So we have the text, we have app mention, and this is a callback event we mentioned. Other one is a Slack command message, how a command message will look like. Just pay a very close attention to the structure of the message because this is very important to how we will be using it. Okay. Now this is how the structure will look like, and how we'll also like verify which command we have to operation we have to run on the basis of this particular part, just command. Now I as I've showed you have different commands, and will be like there will be a switch case, or you can say like a choice router. You can just imagine we'll be performing on the basis of this command, we'll be performing certain actions. So you have text. Text is actually the part of it. So you space along with the app or the certain small event that you want to perform. App ID. Token is like command. No, token is like command. No, this is different. This is different. This is a completely different thing. In time authorizations, enterprise ID, team ID, user is both true. So we have. So with your permissions, I can probably start with a demo now. Let me just confirm one small thing. Yes. Okay, one small thing. Sorry for that. Yep, it's done now. So these are certain events that we are handling. We have a Slang event message, any event that is coming. We handle slash commands. We will be different slash commands are there. Slack my app mention, like if you mention a particular app also, and the posting, which is used for posting a message. So let me just now start this application. You can build this thing in any way you want. You can build this in MuleSoft also, in Java also. But MuleSoft, I mean, you have to configure the endpoint. Uh, I'm not sure if we can, using Slack connector, we can support events. I'm not sure about it. And there is I was entirely not sure about it. That's why I had gone for this. But this thing can be built in any way you want. I use Go since it's like a little lightweight and also like a brilliant support for concurrency. You'll see like it's how advantageous it is. But you can build this thing in any way you want. So yes, my application has started. Let me just start from the very basic stuff. Okay. So I guess my app is started. So let's just say first hello to it. So I'll say hello. So we get a message, we get greetings, status, start, screenshot. So this was actually like older message, but we'll see like what are the actual ones. So if you we have just tagged it, so it sent a callback event to our listener, and it received and it posted the message back to us. Greetings, I continue Slackbot, given another question you confirm. Now if I add something different, let's just say hola. How can I help you? So you date initializer, which is me, and that's how you do the job. Now let's start with the actual work, which is how you get the MuleSoft status. Now first step is we'll list all the environments that are part of our my platform. Okay. Okay. So let's just say now if you so whenever you install an app, this commands already become part of it. If you see list environments, see just add a slash here, add a slash in your Slack and see a list of commands will come to you. Different commands. Now these are app specific commands, Trello, Trivia, Workstream. Now since I want my app specific, so I'll add list environments, which is the name of my app. So I'll be listing all the environments that are part of my event platform. When I do this, see, it's there. So you have design, which is production now. We have SO2C dev environment, we have the prod, we have the SKU, and we have the well. All the environment details are in front of you on your flow Slack only. So you don't have to. So sometimes there we used to get this information like we need an org ID, we need the environment ID, all this information. Now you have to always first get a token and then go to the Postman collection, then retrieve everything. Now that can be done like it's so handy. You can just do it in the fingertips only. Okay. Second step, let's get some assets. Like let's maybe some asset information. How many assets are currently in my exchange? So I'll say get asset info. So you have these, I have these assets, which are this asset name, group ID, artifact ID, everything that is part of it. Okay. Some very basic stuff. Now let's go to some good stuff, which is getting the list of applications that are currently deployed. So I'll say get status. Now also I will need to provide the actual environment name, which in my case. So let's say I want this one, SO2 step. So that is like a prerequisite. We have to pass the environment and then I mean how we could get the environment. So those are some things that we have to also take care of. So I want this. So I have app details for SO2 Syngram. So all the applications that are currently deployed or undeployed there, and on how many records. Now we could get add more information there also, like how many, which is the you can say region, or what is the properties that are part of it. You can add anything you want. I have just added 3 parameters, but we can add more. If you want me to add more, I can also add more. That's not an issue. But just for context. So these are started, status and deployed, worker, CEO. So all things are currently deployed. Created during the MuleSoft platform account. So platform account was linked as a part of my goal and code only. We can still we can do via a login. So there is one command that I have not worked on since maybe I could have spent more time, but I didn't get the time for that. But we could actually link the platform account from Slack only. Like just add a new command and just add a username password so that you can link to your own account you want. Currently, the credentials are part of my that backend code only. Sarika, does that answer question? That can be done like it's not it's maybe we can do that like it should be very easy. Maybe in future maybe since we are currently enhancing it, so we can link the platform, link the any platform. Now even if you don't have a username password, or you have some certain like a client like the connected app client ID, etc., that can also be done. I mean, it can also be done very easily. It shouldn't be an issue. Like even if you don't have a username password, or you have some. So if you have Okta via Okta, it will be very difficult. But even if you have an Okta, you can use a connected app client ID client secret to connect to it. So if I get the status of any other environment, let's just say SO2C, let's say prod. Yes, this should be the file. But environment details are also there. Now let's do a very cool stuff, which is downloading a RAML. Like if you want to download a particular RAML, if you want a particular asset. So let's just let me just get an asset name. I'll take this one. Maybe I think let's take a RAML. RAML should be pretty easy. Yes. So I have to download this RAML. Set name. See, RAML is downloaded now. You could download any asset that you want. Any questions until now before I go to the start and stop part? Any questions? I hope there will be a few questions. Yes, these commands have been created. I showed you, right? See this, get status, change status, get as information, government channel. They have been created by me. They are part of the application, as I told you. No, this is not free actually. This is not even production ready, I would say. But maybe if we can enhance it to be much more better. But this is just like a like simple thing that I built. Trial version, I am not sure. So we have to see like if this could be available. Maybe I have to work more on this, but we'll see. Okay, now let's go to the start stop. Now start stop exactly I have to use a trial account since we don't have the permissions to do start stop via an API. So I'll do some. So give me a second first. Let me just start this application. Okay, yes, it is done. I think give me a second. Just think there is a small thing that I have to make a change. Now there are some things like there are still some moving parts which maybe by time I'll remove those moving parts and make it like a like a something that can be installed as a part of Slack app or maybe can be available for anyone to use. So I have to still work on those things. But yeah, I think someone has a question. Yes, Sarika. I am calling the Anypoint platform APIs only behind this. The thing is, only the steps are like a little easier to do. So we have to generate token and all the stuff. So that is being taken care of by Microsoft only. So we have a cache that actually maintains that token so that it can be used by other transactions also. So that's why used it. So this is like a trial environment. I'll show you how to start or stop or restart the application. So let me first run my Golang application. So this is one app that we have. How can we connect these commands to specific location for assets environments? Yes, that's so. It's like a backend logic only. Like for every command that you have, you can perform a certain function, and like how we do a usual programming and only we create a function, we link that function to that particular command. I'll show you a little bit of code actually at the very end of the session. I'll show you a little code how I built it. Yes, so this is one app that is actually working. We'll stop this app from Slack only. So let me first see if this application I'm able to check this application, which is list few items. Yes, so this is a different environment. So we have Sandbox and design. Let me also list out the apps also. Get status, which is Sandbox. only one app. Now let's stop this application. Just change status. So we have the first status, app name, and then environment which is, so I'll write it as status is, I'll take it as status as stop. App name is this one, sample project app, and environment is sandbox. So status of API sample project has changed to stop. So if I see this application is stopped now. Now let's start it. I'll do, sorry for that.
Jitin, sorry to interrupt. I do have a question.
Yes.
So, we are interacting MuleSoft with Slack, but the logic which is written behind it, it is in the Golang language, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
So, can we do so in the MuleSoft language itself?
Yes, it can be done, but the thing is, I'm not sure if MuleSoft supports socket mode with Slack. Like
So,
Slack connector in itself supports socket mode and socket mode in its connector. I'm not sure of it.
okay. So, like the person who is familiar with the Golang, only that person can interact, can be helping in writing the logic between these Slack and MuleSoft, I would say.
See, you could use any language. Like it's not a matter of Golang only. Golang, it's because a little. The reason was I was a little skilled in it, and also like it's has a good support for concurrency. But if anyone has to build in MuleSoft also, MuleSoft there is an alternate way which is using the REST API method. So
Mm-hmm.
for every command that every Slack command, you can actually once you send that message to a command, it will actually post to a certain endpoint. Now you can expose that endpoint via MuleSoft.
Okay.
Now you can expose that endpoint via MuleSoft. MuleSoft will receive that endpoint and receive the details from that endpoint, and it will do
Mm-hmm.
certain jobs for you. Now there are certain just limitations with the socket with the I would say HTTP mode. First is we have to send an immediate response within 3 seconds. So either you sync it in an asynchronous way, first immediately send the response, and then you continue to perform your functionality that you're doing. The other is it's a little bit inconsistent, I would say, because certain times you have to add always configure a new endpoint for every command. Now here there was no such problem. You just create a command, just handle it your own way. But when you're exposing an HTTP endpoint, you have to always add an endpoint for every information, and the limitation of 3 seconds is also there. But it's not that like it cannot be built in MuleSoft. It can easily be built. It's not a problem. Just the socket mode is like a little bit I would say flexible, and also the I would say flexibility it provides, also some added functionality that comes with the socket mode. That's the reason I choose Golang.
Okay. So, talking about myself, as I'm not a Golang person, okay. So, can I do it apart from that? Okay, not talking about MuleSoft as well. Can we do it like .NET or in Java as well? If you
Yeah,
think
absolutely,
so.
absolutely you can do it.
Okay.
Yes. So I think Java has a library for Slack. JavaScript also has a
Mm-hmm.
library for Slack.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be built. That's not an issue. It can be
Okay.
built in any programming language any way you want.
So, anyways, the command which we are using that also has a logic written in the Golang itself,
Yes, yes,
as you are
absolutely.
showing us.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I'll show you the code, actually, a little bit of the code, how it is
Yeah, yeah,
built.
that's fine. Okay.
Yeah. So, do we intend to use automation by notifying upstream wherever required? Yes, absolutely. So, this whole functionality is built, is keeping in mind if you want to give this to upstream. Now, this whole thing can be packaged into a Mule like a Slack app, and then you can use it any way you want. So, we don't need to reinvent the wheel by writing another code in different language. We could just maybe use this app if we are able to enhance it in a better way. We could enhance this way only to other people also. And not just like I won't say like only just MuleSoft only. Like there are so many things that you can achieve. Like we recently did some automation with AWS also. So like connecting with S3 or SQS, those sort of things can also be done. So it's pretty powerful, I would say, Black way, and it's like a very interactive way to deal with things. So yeah, I forgot small thing. So I wanted to start my app now. So it is already stopped. So let's start the app. So let's just say change status. I'll do a start. I'll do a sample project, and I'll do a sandbox. So it has started. Let's see. It has started now. So far, I think we have this only, but we can add more things to it maybe in future. I think I promised to show a little bit of code also. So this is the code where actually I've built everything. So if you see this events class, so we are handling slash commands. This is the ender slash commands. Okay. So this is a like a built-in Slack library by Go, and here we are actually on the basis of the switch case we are doing. So we get status, we are performing certain functions, which is get app details, and we are calling that API and doing all the job for us. Similarly, for change status also get ascending work. For every event, we are doing all the things that we want. And this service can be deployed to container. As I think previously someone asked this question. Yes, it can be deployed to a container in case, or even as a HTTP service if you want. If you want to expose HTTP endpoints, or even as a EC2 service also, like deploying it EC2. It can be done anywhere, hosted anywhere you want. I think, any questions? Can you do one of the use case? Yes, Shiva.
No, I was answering Sarika actually.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So I think this was it from the demo. We are still like maybe we can still work on more this. Can you switch? Can you show how you're switching the endpoint platform? That is via property file only. So we have a property file that is .env file where we keep all the username password. I change the username password there only. That's not a best way, I know. But yes, as I was planning to log in via platform only, maybe I can I can add this. Like it won't be a huge change. Like maybe I can add a small command for login only, and then a command for logout also. So we could do that thing, so that a token is always persisted there.
So Jiten, we do have a Anypoint platform credentials, right? So do we need to configure anything in the Slack itself, like while creating the app, that Anypoint credentials as well, or via the Golang itself we are doing so?
Currently, we are doing via Golang, but we can enhance that. We can enhance this whole thing via via where you can provide the credentials via Slack only. We can enhance this. Absolutely, we can.
Okay, okay.
Currently, it's part of Golang just for little easiness, just for this demo
Mm-hmm.
purpose only. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, absolutely, we can do via platform only. So you can send the username password via some form. Also, Slack also support forms, sending forms also. So
Mm-hmm.
you can add those username password in the form. The event will receive and it will do its job.
Okay.
So Jitin, one question from my side. So here our Slack application is calling the Go Live and Golang, and Golang is calling the, like you have hard coded some secrets, Anypoint platform password, and you are calling the REST APIs, standard REST API which are provided by the MuleSoft. Correct?
Yes.
We are
Yes.
we have not created any custom application in MuleSoft to get the data, right?
I'm sorry, like we have not created any custom application. No,
Like
Anyone
any
platform.
Mule.
No, no, no. We haven't created any app, certain app for that.
Those REST endpoints are capable
So
enough to give you the data.
like the standard APIs, REST API.
Correct.
Anyone platform provides anyone platform APIs. They are like provided by them only, and you can use them. We have used only that only. We haven't created any certain new app just to get this information.
So rather, so like the one possible use case might be like to map the those APIs like which we run from the Anypoint CLI, for example. Correct? We can map them against these different commands, right? Somehow in the Slack
Yes,
itself.
absolutely we can. So CLI also performs the same way anyone platform API works. It's the same way.
True.
Yes, so
Yeah.
we could,
Yeah.
yeah, we can interact with platform
Okay.
API. That is more feasible for us. Like CLI, there will be so much of coding that we will require, but instead we could use just platform API because they are doing the same job. So,
Again, the intention is like I just want to avoid the Golang services to use so that because I'm not familiar with that. But yeah,
yeah,
that
no,
answers
no,
my
yeah,
question. Thank you.
yeah, no. So that's not a problem. Like Golang is just my, it was just my preference, but You could use, as Ansel said, you could work in .NET or Java or even MuleSoft only. You can build this whole application in MuleSoft only. That's not a problem. I just actually added the advantages that I felt with Golang. Now there would be some certain advantages with other also, but I felt like it's support for concurrency and like how it was easy for able to interact with it. That's why I felt this was like a better choice for my. But it won't be a better choice for anyone else. So everyone prefers their own way, so that's not a problem. Yes, absolutely, Gautam. We could use a connected app. Connected app also is supported here. So the ePay is also supported here. But since like we wanted a little bit easier way, but yes, connected app can also be done. So the API used for connected app is a little different. We use the auth login API where we pass the username, password, you not username, password, client ID, client secret, and the like the sort of the I think there was one more parameter, and then we get the token. That can be done absolutely. As I said, like this is just a basic way, the basic we're working. But yeah, if we have to enhance it, we'll enhance it in a very good way. Like maybe proper authorization would be there. Authorization will be driven from Slack only, not from the Golang app only. It will be driven from the Slack. I can probably stop sharing my screen.
All right. So, do we have any further questions, guys?
Sarika, yes, it supports, but I thought it was maybe a beta version connector. I'm not sure. The last time I checked, the Slack for Mule for connector of Slack was like the older version. It didn't have the latest functionality. That's what I know.
Sarika, you have mic access. You can talk. All right. So, because I didn't prepare any questions for trivia. Did you create any questions?
No,
No
bro.
worries. No worries. So I guess we'll skip that trivia as of this one. I will do that for the next. All right. Anyway, so thanks, Jeetal, for this amazing session. I guess a lot of people learned and a lot of new things. Guys, if you have any further questions on this topic, feel free to reach out to Jeetal or me on LinkedIn. Right? Anybody has anything to ask as of now? We can spend like 5 minutes for that. And the recording will be available today after like 1 or 2 hours. You can check the event page for that. Okay. And if anybody wants to be a speaker for Noida Group, please feel free to reach out to me. I will be more than happy to schedule a speaker for that. Sorry, ma'am, today we don't have the trivia. We couldn't find time for that. All right then. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. Talk to you in the next meetup then.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.